ship, so use caution moving around the boat. If you're outside here, you've already weathered stepping over the thresholds and doorways. Please don't trip on those. And do keep in mind that our stairs move through all 4 dimensions, space and time. So if you don't use your hand on the hand railing, going between decks, the stairs have an opportunity to leave you. And they won't do that, I can tell you from experience. If you're a smoker, you are out of luck. You can't smoke on board the boat. That's the Washington Clean Air Act. That includes a ban on all types of vaping. So hang in there. You can make it. Besides, our crew have already told you about all the adult distractions that are available here in the Spirit of Seattle. You'll see crew members wandering around, fancy iPads. They can get the order in ahead of time, but actually not even going down to the bar down there, so it's all fancy. You met Marin as you boarded the boat. That was the slap of the line getting the dock here, so we're officially underway. I've got Ariana and Nick, and who else do we have? Eddie. How can I forget Eddie? Last but not least, you've got Travis standing up here. He's going to tell you all about what you're looking at here as you go down the waterfront. So we've got a great presentation for you. Sit back and enjoy that. We'll take a break about halfway through if you want to ask any questions. In the meantime, all the crew narrate, so you can ask anybody on board here. We can fill you in with more info. If you're feeling all hot, lethargic, well, we're going north. That's the wind's coming out of here, so it's going to be literally blowing 30 miles an hour. It's going to cool off really fast. The bad news, it's going to be going with the wind, going across the harbor, so it's going to warm right back up again, so keep that in mind. So with that, we're underway. Welcome.
All right, folks, how's everybody doing today? Doing well? That sounds like a Tupperware party out there. We're having a boat party. So again, how we doing? Yeah, right on. So first and foremost, I want to remind you guys that this is going to be your trip. This is your tour. I will be narrating it, but I will leave you alone at multiple points so you can just take in the beauty of the city. During those times, I will be available for questions. If you have any questions, I will attempt to answer them. That being said, we're going to get underway. Welcome to Argosy. Great, beautiful company out here in our beautiful corner of the Pacific Northwest. How many folks first time to Seattle? Great, welcome, welcome. We love to show off the beauty that we have in our region here. In fact, we love celebrating it as well. Our plan today is to show you some of the history, some of the scenes, tell you about a little bit of the culture as well, and hopefully show you a great time. So we're going to get underway here. Obviously, the slip that we're pulling out of is the Pier 55 slip, where you see at the moment none of our boats. They all seem very busy today. They all have the same idea as you, is getting out on the beautiful water of Seattle. You're going to get some great views of these skylines. Like I said, we'll make sure to pause at points as well, so that you can have some uninhibited opportunities to snap those photos. One of the first sights you are going to see as we start cruising our way north here, we are headed north on our waterway of Elliott Bay, is of course the Great Seattle Wheel. It is named because it is in fact great. If you haven't been on it yet, go check it out. It's a lot of fun. There are 42 gondolas on this Great Seattle Ferris wheel. It's probably our most recent addition to the waterfront. It was built and brought in about 6 years ago. There is one of the gondolas that you'll notice as we're cruising by that is going to be an all-black gondola. This is a VIP gondola. In fact, it is heated during the winter. It has air conditioning for the summer. They also provide a champagne toast in it. So if you're looking to go do something a little bit adventurous and fun after you head out of here, I recommend heading north and checking that out. Also has a glass bottom, so if you're a little afraid of heights, that might not be the one for you. But it is a beautiful sight that we love having here in our skyline. As we do continue to move forward, you will notice off to your right a building that extends out onto the pier. It is this greenish, bluish gray building. And I'm sure a lot of you have visited there already. How many folks have been to the Seattle Aquarium? Awesome. It is a great time. They've got great exhibits. They've got an underwater dome where you can see some of the great wildlife and marine life in the Pacific Northwest. Some of the interesting things about this facility, a lot of folks don't know, is it won an award back in 1982 from the AZA, which is the American Zoo and Aquarium Society. This is called the James H. Beard Award, and what they won this for was being actually the first facility to successfully breed giant Pacific octopi, which is inherently very difficult to do. These are elusive creatures, they are solitary creatures as well. They were the first to successfully start that program of the breeding. One of the other programs they're really known for is their we all know, scientifically proven fact, sea otters are the cutest creatures in the entire world. Part of the reason why I do say this is what a lot of folks don't know: when they sleep, they actually hold hands so that they don't drift away from their partners. It's about the cutest thing you'll ever see. They really do care about their significant other. It's, yeah, I went there, and there may be a few more. You won't see them coming, and I will not apologize. That also being said, if you look off our left side of the boat, we're going to go through some terms, by the way. Our right side of the boat is our starboard side. You hear me say starboard, that's going to be our right side of the boat. Our left side is going to be our port side. That's tough to remember. Remember, port is short. Left is shorter than right by about one letter. You're going to see one of our Washington State ferries, and we'll discuss those a little bit right at the end of our tour. But that being said, they are out sharing the waterways with us. There's a lot of other vessels here in Elliott Bay, and so because of that, we will at times experience some wake from them. So I'll try to warn you as best as possible. Make sure to keep your eyes open. We'll move around a little bit. If you have drinks in your hands, be wary of that. And if you're a little unsure, make sure you've got your seat. We are completely safe in this vessel, as Captain Charlie let us know. As we move along here, we're coming across a few other piers. Now there's this big blank empty space on our right starboard side here. This isn't always empty. In fact, this is Seattle's first cruise ship terminal. So we have the cruise ships. Anybody come in on a cruise ship or leaving on one? Great. Hope you have a great time. They're beautiful, absolutely beautiful. These ships tend to come in and rock out by about 4 o'clock in the evening. So obviously this terminal is empty currently. But I believe it was filled earlier today. It definitely was yesterday. This was the first cruise ship terminal, as I said, built in Seattle. And it was all built under the premise of the Field of Dreams movie, in the sense that if you build it, they will come. So they figured if we built it, we want more people and more attractions to come to Seattle. Well, that first year, that whole theory didn't really work out, right? No boats showed up. But how many showed up the second year? You're right, absolutely 0. And the third year, and the year after that, and the year after that, no boats, no cruise ships. But then, in the year 2000, our first cruise ship did come and use us as a port of call, and then another, and another, and another, and the rest is history. We are now the largest port of call on the western side of the United States for cruise ships. So this is one of the larger terminals. In fact, we had to build another terminal, which we will see along our way, and I will make sure to point out to you. So that's an interesting fact about how we are located in the world and our positioning. How the cruise ships come through and bring people from all over. As we move along here, we're going to see some more buildings. You will see the Space Needle creeping up. Don't worry, in about 3 to 5 minutes, it's going to pop wide open and you're going to get your best view of it to snap those photos. So don't be too concerned. I'll make sure to give you that time as well. But what we're pulling up on our starboard side as we approach, it's going to be this gray building, and it looks to drop sheer off into the water. It's also got some red E's on the top of it, on the watermost corner. Well, it's sitting right on the edge of the water, so it's aptly named the Hotel Edgewater. There are a lot of fun facts about this hotel, so I'll keep it a little limited for you. Feel free to go and do your own research. Oh, and it is obligatory to wave at anybody who meets you. Make sure they know you're having a good time and are here with you. So some fun things about this hotel. There has had some really amazing people stay there, some great musical acts. And the whole idea of them building it was they wanted it to be prepared for the 1962 World's Fair. That's in fact what the Space Needle was also built for. Like most construction projects, they fell a little behind. By a little behind, I mean that it finished 2 weeks after the entire World's Fair, which was 6 months long and saw 10 million people. So they didn't get to see any of that traffic. However, because of that, they wanted to recoup some of those funds and some of that interest. So they started marketing themselves in fishing and outdoor magazines, saying, well, you can come get supplies from our bait shop and fish right off of your balcony. So this was actually a process and something that they offered up until the 1980s. The 1980s is when they banned that process. For many reasons, I'm sure you can assume. We've had some great musical acts stay there. As I mentioned, we actually had the Beatles stay there when they visited Seattle for the first time. A lot of the other hotels, in fact, no other hotel in Seattle would allow them to stay because of the massive craze of the fans at this hotel. They had a barbed wire running around it. When they left their show, they had to go in an ambulance to hide and mask themselves. And they sent out decoy limousines and taxis all over the city that people chased around. It was quite the scene, from what I hear. And there were even people swimming in Elliott Bay attempting to get closer to them. Have you creep along the waterway here. We're going to come up on our starboard side, our right side, to Pier 70. This may look familiar to some of you. How many of you out there are from the MTV generation or enjoyed MTV? Well, if you remember the show The Real World, which still airs, they just had a recent season in Seattle as well. The very first season was here in Seattle, and they were right there on Pier 70, along where you see the gray in between the red sapphire. That was where they lived out of. So they lived there, they worked there, they fought there, they drank there, and they made history, arguably becoming one of the first reality television shows in the reality television greats. So at this point, I'm going to do what I said I would do and be quiet so you can enjoy views of this space. You know, this is the best shot you're going to have all day, the closest shot. So I'll give you a few minutes to snap some photos and I'll give you some more info.
So a lot of this was from the World's Fair in 1962. So.
We rode our bikes all over here.
Yeah. Ómnibus. Isn't that the bridge that we rode up on?
We're going to get back
All the
into
time.
our arena portion here. The park that you see that was just under the space there is going to be called Olympic Sculpture Park. This is a public park. You can go and check out the beautiful pieces of art there. The red piece that you see is called Eagle. That was a piece delivered just a few years ago. The other one that almost looks two-dimensional just behind us here, a giant white head. It is not your eyes playing tricks on you. It is in fact intended to look two-dimensional from any angle. It's quite the interesting piece to see up front. That piece is called Echo. Anyways, as we continue onward here, you will see off to the right side this building. It's tan with blue windows and it's got a giant globe on top with an eagle on top of that globe. Well, the words around that globe say it's in the PI. This was the original home of the Seattle Post-Intelligencer, which is the oldest newspaper in Seattle. For those of you kids out here who don't know what newspapers are, these magical things made out of paper have these amazing stories on that magically appear at your front door every morning. In fact, I always make that joke because the PI does not print it. They came out of print just a few years ago. Obviously, with the technological boom, they are still in existence. They are still on the web. Still read stories done by their great writers. However, although they're no longer in print, they're also no longer in this building. But the interesting thing about that globe is it was donated to the Museum of History and Industry, which is a public museum. So it's owned by what we call the MOHI, just on the other side near the space needle there on the side of Union, which means that the landlord really can't do a whole lot about it. It's up there for foreseeable future. Being part of our skyline as well.
We were up there.
Now the park along the water here, as you see, it almost looks like it might have been a continuation of that Olympic Sculpture Park. It's not. It's actually called Myrtle Edwards Park. I'll make a lot of pop culture references, so I apologize in advance. But how many of you are fans of the television show Parks and Recreation? Okay, so this will be a way easier to explain to you. Myrtle Edwards, who this park was named after, is basically Seattle's version of Leslie Knope. So she was a woman who cared fervently about parks, believed that the city should not just become a concrete jungle, that there needs to be spaces for people to go and enjoy and kind of escape the hubbub of the big city life. So this park is great. Us locals, we love it. You'll see people reading, jogging. They'll be out with their dogs, with their children. And it's just a nice place to kind of go and get a little solitude and some quiet within the city. Now you won't see anybody swimming in the water, and I assume you all know why. Elliott Bay is extremely cold. And by extremely cold, I mean extremely cold. It roughly stays the same temperature all year round, and that's going to be probably 47 to 52 degrees. So needless to say, a little bit of time in this
That's
park
what their
goes a long
average
way towards
temperature
that
is.